Welcome to another marvelous episode of CFB Nation, hosted by me, Lever KT, aka the Governor of College Football, and we got a lot to talk about today. Of course, we saw the opening round of the college football playoffs, so we definitely gonna get into that. To my left, right under me, is the play clock. That's what I have each and every segment. I got 3 minutes, and it really challenges me to get through these segments in a timely manner. I want this to be a 30-minute show. Don't forget, we're live every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The only reason why we started a little bit later today is because I was invited to another show. And shout out to her FM. Truly appreciate what Chris and Adam are doing there. So let's talk about this portal tracker. A lot going on. I think this may be one of the best portal classes when we look back at it. I think this will be very reminiscent of the 2023-2024 portal class. But just keep this in mind that when you're looking at this portal class, it's only one. So we're comparing seasons that typically have two portal classes, typically with the earlier portal window being much better than the late window portal window. But every late window portal window, we seem to get a big player or a big fish in a smaller pond. So I think this portal window is definitely going to have some intricacies. Auburn quarterback Ashton Daniels, who was able to get some playing time toward the end of the season, he's entered the transfer portal. Interested to see where he go. Also, Auburn cornerback K.N. Lee has also entered the transfer portal as well. Iowa State wide receiver Daniel Jackson has entered the transfer portal. Tennessee quarterback Jake Merklinger. There was a thought that he and Joey Aguilar was going to have the opportunity to compete for a starting job, which they did. Joey Aguilar was able to win. I'm just interested to see, what does the market look like for Jake Merklinger? Is there like a lower level P4 school that he may have an opportunity to go to, or is G5 going to be his route, which isn't a bad route at all, but I'm sure all he wants is an opportunity to play. Colorado wide receiver Traylon Miller has entered the portal as well. We also have a really big fish that's just entered the portal, a guy that I had in my top 10 quarterback. Both of these guys I'm about to mention next, I had in my top 10 quarterbacks heading into the season. Josh Hoover, he's an outstanding guy. We was able to interview him during Big 12 Media Days this past media cycle, and it was really amazing to get that opportunity to interview him, and such a stand-up guy. It'll be interesting to see what school he goes to. I think he'll probably land in the SEC. I can see one of those schools just really foaming at the mouth over Josh Hoover. We seen schools last year, he wasn't even in the portal, but they were kind of poaching to try. Tennessee was a school who I'm thinking of, who actually wanted him to enter the portal so he could come and play for them down there in Knoxville. Also, Iowa State quarterback Rocco Beck didn't quite have the season he anticipated. I think one of the things you see when you look at the overall landscape of college football and what we have now, and why I only have 3 seconds that fast, is that, things are happening way faster. We look at early signing day was moved up about 3 weeks. The coaching carousel has been so crazy this year. There's a lot of moving pieces. So some of these teams who have coaching changes, Matt Campbell, he's gone. He's at Penn State now. Iowa State players are leaving. We see the coaching change at Auburn. So there's just going to be a lot of moving pieces. I'm just interested to see what that looks like. Let's go ahead and move right along to our next segment. I told you it happens fast. But let's get to this Bama versus Oklahoma recap. This was truly one of those games, in my opinion. When I look back at this game, I felt like I was right in the beginning of the game. You look at Oklahoma, you look at the success they was having earlier in the game, being able to go up 17-0. There was quite a few things that I liked. I see that defense were playing aggressive. They were attacking. Even on some of those earlier possessions where Oklahoma ended up punting the ball, they were still able to move the ball. You saw John Mateer. There were a few throws he missed, but he was comfortable running a rock. You could tell he was happy to have that brace off of his hand. And it was almost like a tale of two games almost. You look at when Oklahoma was up 17-0, some people were already like, Alabama shouldn't be in the playoffs. We should have been looking at, instead of looking at Notre Dame versus Miami, we should have been looking at Notre Dame versus Alabama. And a few of those takes age like milk, bro. And that's why I tend to try to wait till I know that the game, they're in victory formation, the game's about to end. That's typically what I try to wait for when I see that. But just looking at this game, it was just like the tale of two stories. The resilience of Alabama. I know fans in Norman are probably upset. The school was closed for that day, not just at the university in Norman, but I'm talking about the public schools were closed. I was like, everything is lining up for a big game for Oklahoma. I was like, you know what? John Mateer didn't play that great. They were in Tuscaloosa, and he didn't play that great. They were still able to win that game. I said, what happens if he's hot early and he gets comfortable early? What does that game look like? And you see Alabama was able to win that game from all facets of the game. You saw special teams played a huge factor for Alabama winning that game. The pick six that they got was a huge factor in their ability to win that game. It's just truly exciting to see this variation of college football. I think a lot of people look at the opening round a year ago and how critical people were in the opening round. How some of the bitter teams, South Carolina felt like they deserved to be in a year ago. Ole Miss felt like they deserved to be in a year ago. Alabama just felt like they deserved to be in a year ago. And you saw some bickering and you saw some whining and you saw some complaining. Well, like, hey, well, we deserving to be over Indiana or we deserve to be over San Antonio. Well, Alabama, you got smoked by not so good Oklahoma team a year ago. You didn't deserve to be in. Ole Miss, you lost to Kentucky and Florida last year. You didn't deserve to be in. South Carolina probably got robbed at LSU. I thought they had one of the better cases to be into the college football playoff. But this year, I felt like we had a really good game, even though it was a tale of kind of two games when you think about it. But outstanding game, outstanding resilience. Ryan Grubb going up to the press box helped a ton. You saw some of the adjustments that they made, how they huddled up a little bit differently, how they made it difficult for Alabama to substitute, how they made it for Oklahoma to substitute, and also how it made it difficult for Brent Venables. And they were quiet this time around. Remember the last time they played, Ryan Grubb, like, well, we're changing our signals. We know that, Brent Venables is such a great sign stealer. Well, if you run an antiquated or archaic offense, that's on you, right? That's how I feel about that. So I was wrong about this game. I was even further wrong about this next game. Let's talk about it. Miami. Outstanding victory. Outstanding victory for Miami this week. Honestly, could have won by more points. We was just talking about that on Herd FM. Bad special teams play. To me, the overarching theme for this game, one, is a purist game. I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I enjoyed seeing great defense of play. To me, college football ain't just about high scoring. And we typically get high scoring, big plays, a lot of fun activity that happens during the sport of college football. But, sometimes just seeing defenses attacking the ball, playing with a great deal of intensity, a great deal of discipline, a great deal of aggression is kind of a cool thing to see, because you see it sometimes in NFL playoff football. When the game slowed down, people start playing defense. Same thing with the NBA. You see in the NBA, people scoring 120, 130, 140. Once you get in the core of the playoff, you're seeing teams now going from scoring that many points to now teams that are scoring 88. You may see a score 91 to 88. You know what I'm saying? You may even see a score that both teams score in the 80s. I think that's just where we're at with the sports. So seeing this game, I have a couple of overarching thoughts about it. My first thought was Texas A&M all year. I've been saying Texas A&M has more ways to beat you than any team in college football. They can beat you with outstanding special teams. They can beat you with their passing game. They can beat you with their ability to run. They can beat you with an outstanding defense and forcing turnovers. And it was abysmal play here. And I know that Colin Klein was calling the plays. He had done an outstanding job calling plays all year. And I just thought, hey, they should be comfortable in this game. They at home. And one of the things I talked about on this show, and I talked about it on College Football Showdown, was some of those slower starts we've seen with Texas A&M. And I owe Miami an apology. I've kind of been a Hurricane hater. I'll admit that. Shout out to my dog CANES, who was in here the other day. And he was like, no, we will win that game. So shout out to him. He called this shot, and they won the game, so shout out to him. I don't know. I was just disappointed in Colin Klein. And it leads me back to the landscape. We need some landscape changes. And some of that I'll talk about on Governor College Football. Make sure you guys also follow me on YouTube at Governor College Football. So I'm live there 3 times a week. I'm live here 3 times a week for this show, College Football Nation. I'm also live on Overreaction Monday once a week, and also College Football Showdown once a week. So I have some idea for landscape changes. This sport really needs some landscape changes. We need to figure out this coaching carousel. I hated seeing Bob Chesney coaching a college football playoff when we know it as hard as in UCLA. I hated seeing John Summerall at Tulane when we know it's hard as in Gainesville. And if I am the AD of those programs, those bigger programs, and say, that's cool what y'all doing, but, bro, we need you here. We got work to do, right? So that's just where I'm at. Colin Klein is the coach of Kansas State, head coach of Kansas State. His heart is there. He played there. Like, I don't know. Abysmal performance. That's all I'm going to say. Let's move on to this next one. Ole Miss, pure domination, winning 41-10 over Tulane. I kind of led with it earlier that we have so much going on in college football. This may have been one of the best coaching carousels that I've seen, because heading into this year, and keep in mind that on Governor College Football, I did well over 100 episodes since April, right? And one of the things that I talked about was like, hey, we're going to get an outstanding coaches carousel this year. I was talking about coordinators. I was talking about the Glenn Schumans of the world. I was talking about the Kane Womacks of the world. I was talking about the Will Steins of the world. A lot of these great, coordinators who deserve opportunities to coach. I had no idea that BK, Brian Kelly, at LSU would get fired. I had no idea that Billy Napier would get fired, right? I had no idea that James Franklin would get fired. So you see these programs, right? And we're at the time in the sport. You say, hey, you can flip things around in a season, depending on if you have the resources and the funds to do so. We see a team down in Lubbock last year who couldn't stop a nosebleed. Now they have one of the best defenses in the country because they went out and say, hey, we're going to be able to put up points. We're okay there. But we need to be able to play defense. Baylor can't hang 59 on us the way that they hung 59 on us a season ago. So if you have the appropriate resources, you should have the ability to have success. That's why I hated Sam Pittman being fired. So frustrating to me because they didn't give him the resources, and the AD came out there and said that. Will Stein, in theory, I like him going to the Kentucky, but what about the resources? So we have so much jumbled up. We had John Summerall, who's also coaching. Now he's fully coaching Florida and Florida solely, but, some of his duties, he's flying back and forth between the Big Easy and Gainesville to be able to do what he needs to do to prepare for this game. We have to figure a way to space these things out. And it's so difficult in college football because of some of these windows, and some things have been done to make it better. I love the fact that they moved the early signing day up. It used to be around this time of December. They moved it up to the first part of December. I think it was like the second, third, or fourth that they had early signing day. That's cool, but there needs to be a little bit more space. But back to this game, outstanding game. Charlie Weiss called an outstanding game offensively. Kewan Lacey was comfortable. Trinidad Chambliss was comfortable. I'll talk about this more with the next segment that we have, but I said it before, I said it again. I think a G5, and I know some people disagree with me, and that's cool. And I love that. In the comment section, you don't like something I say, talk to about it. Like, hey, Governor, bruh, I don't agree with what you just said. And as long as you being respectful, I'm going to be respectful. You get disrespectful, I'm going to get disrespectful. That's it. You know what I'm saying? We cool over here. So, like I said, I'm going to talk more about it with this Oregon one. But shout out to Ole Miss to be able to handle business. And this Ole Miss, we are not worthy for this Sugar Bowl that we're about to get between Ole Miss and Georgia. And keep in mind that Ole Miss almost went in Athens and did the unthinkable earlier in the season. Let's move on to this next segment. Let's talk about Oregon versus JMU. Another really, really interesting game. I know that the Ducks aren't happy with the defensive play. I know Dan Lanning isn't happy with the defensive play from this past game. Visibly pissed off after this game. And when you have that attention to detail, when you are the best motivator in the sport, of course you're going to have some qualms with the way that you play. But moving pieces. Will Stein's head coach at Kentucky. Tosh Lupoi, their defense coordinator, was named head coach at Cal. Moving pieces. That's the landscape of the sport. You can be having an outstanding season. You can be clicking on, firing on all cylinders. But then, oh, dang, Oregon. I wonder why they so successful. Hey, Will Stein's pretty good up there, huh? Tosh Lupoi, he's pretty good up there, huh? And it gets interesting. It gets really interesting. So you start to lose pieces, and people starting to wear double hats, and like, all right, I'm Tosh Lupoi. Hey, I got work to do at Cal. We got to get better recruits in here. I got to win the state of California. Too many of these kids want to go to Oregon. I got to stop some of that. I got to go get some of these studs that's in Hawaii, right? Because they're there. Like, I got to start getting some of these studs in the Pacific Northwest who on this roster not getting enough playing time but want to come play for Cal. Like, those are the type of things you're thinking of as head coach. Like, it's a lot going on. You're not just moving. Your whole family is moving. You're trying to find a home, right? You're getting used to the media appearances that your head coach will normally handle, but now you are the guy at head coach, or you're handling those responsibilities. So it gets interesting. But shout out to Bob Chesney. I didn't like the way this game started for JMU, but they finished strong. Team never quit. And I think he's going to do an outstanding job at UCLA. And it's going to be interesting that, he's going from JMU to UCLA. UCLA has some serious admin issues. Got a great comment here. Honestly, I was more surprised that JMU came close than expected. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a great comment. Shout out to you. Yeah, JMU did play better than advertised, and I'm sure Dan Lanning is really pissed off with how many points they was able to put up at the end of that game. Billy Napier is taking over. He's comfortable there. He's won a lot of games at the G5 level. JMU is a school we have close proximation to. Back in 2024 and 2023, I went to a handful of games there at Bridgeforth Stadium. I truly believe they have the best small game atmosphere there. But like I said, college football, from a logistics perspective, there's some things that need to be fixed, and I have some grand ideas. And like I said, over at Governor College Football, I will introduce some of those ideas. Shout out to Oregon. Oregon moves on. They're playing a damn good Texas Tech team in the Orange Bowl. This is going to be an outstanding game. I think it's a 12 o'clock game, which means it's a 9 a.m. game for Oregon. Nothing new to them because, when you play in a conference that's in the East Coast / Central, you're used to moving around a little bit. But let's move on to the next segment. We're going to talk about Johnny Football. All right. I'm a huge fan of Johnny Football. Was when he was in college. Was when he was doing a little money sign back in college. But I think when you start to look at people, now I'm rooting for him. He got his podcast. Really enjoyed the conversation that he and Shannon Sharp had on Club Shay Shay. But when you start looking at some of his behaviors, like, they gave him, I think, a tablet so he could study. And, he studied 0% of the tablet. You start looking at some of the behaviors, and I know he's upset that people are just, in his opinion, making up things of why he missed. He was supposed to be the guest picker on College Game Day. He was 100% supposed to be the guest picker on College Game Day, and didn't show up. He no-showed. So they was able to get Alex Caruso last moment. And shout out to him. I know, he plays with the Thunder. He probably flew there, but, not too far of a drive there. But to just absolutely no-show, and then Johnny Manziel did say everybody reached out to him to make sure he was okay. And you guys know the internet is not a place that plays around. They say, how you going to miss College Game Day? Because to a lot of us, we hold College Game Day near dear in our heart. There's this emptiness I have when I watch College Game Day. I do love the current panelists, but I miss Lee Corso. I miss Lee Corso so much, to be 100% transparent with you. But for you to be the guest picker on that and no-show, the disrespect, and then the internet was able to piece some things around. He said it was out of his control. He was unable to make it. Never really went into grand details. But they was like, yo, he was in Miami the night before. He was having a damn good time. And I don't know what's going on, why this joint's slowing up, my bad. But they said he was in Miami, he was having a grand time, popping bottles, this, that, and the third. And, people just put two and two together. And maybe that's not completely the story, right? But optics are everything. You're supposed to be on College Game Day early, right? Which is, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, and you popping bottles Friday night. If I got something serious to do in the morning, the last thing I'm ever going to be doing is drinking. Yes, Johnny Football could have been a huge what if, but he fumbled the bag. Absolutely. And I think some of it is because he comes from money. So, he was going to be well off either way. And, especially, if he's anywhere near College Station, he's going to be good. But, yeah, him not showing up on game day was disrespectful. I'm not sure what's going on with bro. The internet did do their due diligence. You know what I'm saying? If it looked like a duck, it walked like a duck, it's probably a duck. But, like I said, he said that doesn't tell the whole story. So, that's between him and his God. But at the end of the day, no calling, no showing for something that they asked you to do that's really... when you think about Texas A&M football, I don't know who you all think about. I think about Johnny Football. I think about his time during college, his time in College Station. So he should have been there. Not sure why he wasn't there. The internet did do the job for me. But, yeah, you see a pattern with Johnny Football. That's all I got to say about that. All right, let's talk about Trinidad Shamblers. Trinidad Shamblers has an interesting thing going on. And I felt like it was important for us to talk about it. He applied for a waiver. And we know the NCAA has been difficult when some people who applied for an extra waiver. Tua Tagovailoa, younger brother, Talia was at Maryland a few seasons ago before Billy Ellis was there. And now Malik Washington is quarterback there. He applied for an extra year, and he was denied. And then, it was rumors that Diego Pavia applied for an extra year. He was denied. I truly believe in my hearts of hearts that Trinidad Chambliss will be granted another season. When he was at the Division II level back in 2022, he was injured the entire season, and he didn't play. So I truly believe that the NCAA, even though they have a habit of messing things up because a lot of us feel they don't like college football, I think in this case they do right by this kid. One of the stories, one of the darlings of the sport this year, when you really look at what he was able to do, Austin Simmons, the hype that he had coming out of Oxford this past summer, their PR team did an outstanding job, right? And I used the parallel before, CANES from my favorite football movie, The Program, and I felt like that's what they were doing. But when you seen this kid play, you're like, yo, who is this kid? He played D2? Like, bro, eye test was showing everybody that, Trinidad Chambliss is probably better than this Austin Simmons kid. But some of us felt like, it's the unwritten rule. Like, you shouldn't lose your job when you're injured. But he was just playing too great at the time. So I want to talk about the fact that I believe that his waiver will be granted. I think he deserves it. If he didn't play in 2022, that should quantify as a redshirt year and give him another year at the collegiate level. But then it leads to, alrighty, he gets another year at the collegiate. I don't know why I had these headphones on. It's because I was just at another show. But if he does get that access for another year at the collegiate level, does he stay in Oxford or does he go to Baton Rouge? I think that's the question that I have. That's the $1 million question for me. And there'll be a lot of reasons for him to stay in Oxford. There's also a lot of reasons, because some people want to be loyal, comfortable where you at. You like the school that you at. You don't want to have to transfer again, get used to another area, learn the surroundings. It'll be interesting to see how this thing plays out. We're going to talk about Lane Kiffin receiving $250K a little bit later for Ole Miss winning this game, and it wasn't from Ole Miss. It was actually from LSU, so I think that's going to be really interesting. I don't know. I'm rooting for Trinidad Chambliss. I think Trinidad Chambliss is everything right with college football. Charlie Baker and NCAA, do what's right by him. Give him a waiver. He deserves it. Let him get one more year at this level. And I think he can greatly improve his draft stock heading into the 2027 NFL draft. Outstanding job by you, Trinidad Chambliss. And do not be surprised in the Sugar Bowl if Ole Miss is giving Georgia everything that they can handle. Because Charlie White's called an outstanding game yesterday. He really did. And Pete Golden defensively called an outstanding game as well. That's our time for that segment. Let's go ahead and move along. We're going to talk about the quarterfinals. I'm not going to give my predictions yet. Not going to even dive in too deeply with how I feel about each game. I'll probably give how I feel right now about each game, just light, because we got a bunch of shows across the week, and we got to stretch it out. Let me actually pull my notes up, which I haven't even been using this entire segment. But I need to have the dates because it's important. So kicking off the quarterfinal will be at the Cotton Bowl. Shout out to my guy, Mr. Rogers. He's one of the execs at the Cotton Bowl. We had the outstanding chance to talk to him at Big 12 Media Days. I also received Scotty Rogers is his name. Also received an email from him recently. So I will certainly be reaching out to him. And I'm not sure why my computer keeps doing this. So I will certainly reach out to Mr. Scotty Rogers before this Cotton Bowl and see what's up. Because, you never know. You may see me there. I don't know. We'll definitely reach out to him. So they're kicking off the Cotton Bowl. And that's on December 31st, New Year's Eve, 7:30 p.m. That's actually on a Wednesday. And it'll be Ohio State versus Miami. That's a really sexy matchup. We remember this matchup from the National Championship from the Fiesta Bowl way back in 2002, I believe it was. To Chris Gamble, was it a pass interference or not? And he actually was one of the early players who played offensive defense quite frequently, to be honest with you. So that will be on Wednesday, December 31st. We got Ohio State versus Miami. Kicking off New Year's Day at noon, we got Texas Tech versus Oregon and in the Orange Bowl. And this is going to be a really great matchup. I think when I look at these quarterfinal matchups, I love this one. I think this is a style makes fight matchup. I think these teams are built very similarly, and they both have studs on that defensive line who could win a war of attrition on the line of scrimmage. And I'm running out of time. I got to hurry up. Alrighty. So I think that's going to be an outstanding game between Texas Tech and Oregon. Do you feel like the Indiana Hoosiers are frauds? They didn't really play anybody this season besides Ohio State. They played Oregon. I'm going to be honest with you. Last year, I felt like Indiana was frauds. But when Kirk Cincinnati and company did it again this season, and I had the opportunity to be around Kirk Cincinnati when he was at JMU. I got to go to a lot of their games. And when he said, Google me, I win, he meant that. So to see what he's been able to do, and he's not doing this with, a star-studded roster. Like Elijah Surratt came from JMU with him. He did it with Curtis Work a year ago. This year he did it with Fernando Mendoza. There's no telling who he's going to get out the portal to be his quarterback next year. So, yeah, they did it once. Okay, yeah, I think they're frauds. We saw Notre Dame put hands and feet on them in the playoff. But to do it again and to win that conference and to win the conference championship this year, even though you can look at their schedule and have issues with it, but he said it. I'm just going to play an SEC non-con schedule this year. Miami will beat Indiana. I ain't doubting Miami no more. I doubted them this past weekend. I'm not sure if I can doubt them anymore. But that's a great question. I appreciate you. How do you pronounce your name? Because I don't want to say it wrong. All right, the third game will be on New Year's Day, 4 p.m. between Indiana and Miami will beat Indiana. If Miami wins the Natties, it's official. Miami football is back. I like that. And we got the granddaddy of them all. We got Indiana and Alabama, which is traditionally a Pac-12 and Big Ten championship, but it's at the Rose Bowl. And me personally, I think the Rose Bowl has the best sporting event at the collegiate level, and I think the national championship should be played at the Rose Bowl every year. That's just a personal opinion of mine. I think Keith Jackson and all of the calls that he did at the Rose Bowl, I just think it should be there. And then the last game will be, for the quarterfinals, will be New Year's Day, 8 p.m. between Ole Miss and Georgia at the Sugar Bowl. And we saw that thriller in the regular season. Let's go ahead and talk about this Lane Kiffin situation. Lane Kiffin got a check from LSU, $250K. And let me get the verbiage. I got it on my notes. It is called an ancillary benefit. And pretty much because of the success of Ole Miss this year, of course, he was their head coach and he led them there. C-Ray? Okay, bet. I got you. Yeah, I just didn't know how to pronounce it. I didn't want to say it wrong, but appreciate you. Welcome. Glad that you were here. And it's crazy what stipulations that LSU was willing to put in this contract, but Ole Miss wouldn't put in this contract, if that makes sense. So he got a $250K bonus for Ole Miss winning their game versus Tulane. If they win a championship, he gets another. These are bonuses, by the way. He gets another $1 million bonus if they win the national championship, which I ain't saying it isn't possible, but it is possible, in my opinion. So the rich get richer. Lane Kiffin is just winning. I know part of him have to be hurt. You know, when we think about the fact that he was not able to coach his team in the playoff. I know that had to hurt his soul. I know that make the decision between coaching at, LSU or staying loyal to Oxford had to be difficult. And, he has that mantra of being a hoe, and you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. To me, he's an outstanding coach. He really is an outstanding coach. His attention to detail is crazy. His ability to work the refs is amazing. His ability to find talent, develop talent, especially at the quarterback position. His ability to be balanced. Every year he seems to be, and my apology for I don't know why this is overloading. It's crazy. I don't even have it on crazy settings. But his ability to be supremely balanced. Like, his teams are always like top 20 passing, top 20 rushing. And this year was no different with Trinidad Shameless at quarterback and Keywan Lacey at running back. Congratulations to him getting $250 from Baton Rouge. I'm just interested to see what it looks like after Ole Miss is out of the playoff. We know that transfer portal window officially, even though people are entering the portal now, it's officially open from January 2nd to January 16th. I want to see how many players get poached from Ole Miss. That's when I'm interested to see. I want to see how messy this thing gets. And college football, me and my boy Moon, CFB Moon, we always talk about, like, college football is like the stories our parents watched. Ohio State offensive line is sorry. I agree with that, Foster. I agree with that 100%. We always talk about how college football is like, the young and the restless that our grandparents or grandmothers used to watch, or As the World Turned, Guiding Light, whichever one. Like, that's what college football is. Like, every day I go online or I go to CFBNation Twitter. I love how Lane Kiffin tried to lie and say he didn't know that he was getting a $90 million contract, so you didn't know how much money you were paying while signing the contract without reading it. Great comment by Cersei. That was dope. That's dope, bro. I like that. That's fire. So, he 100% know. He definitely know. We know how much poaching happens in this sport. It happens. It's something that I think we need a commission. Maybe that commission should include a commissioner, but we definitely need a commission. And then our last one is kind of carousel talk. There's been a lot going on, like a lot of sneaky things going on. Like the New York Giants are interested in Marcus Freeman as head coach. I'm not sure if he leaves Notre Dame. can argue that Notre Dame may be the prestigious job in football. National TV every week. You got docuseries. They got the contract with NBC. I think the only issue with coaching at Notre Dame or playing at Notre Dame is the fact they aren't in a conference. And it's cool. Like, in theory, we play who we want to play. We play the schedule we want to play each and every year. It's going to be a competitive schedule each and every year. But, the fact that they were out of the playoff, and it apparently was out of the playoff because they weren't in the conference. Like, and I get that. They want to play the schools because they have matchups with schools in various conferences. So, in theory, it'll kind of be difficult for them to join a conference and still be successful in said conference. But the New York Giants are interested in Marcus Freeman, and I wonder, is that interest there for him, right? So I'm interested to see that, and it will be trouble for Notre Dame because we're so late in the cycle. We're so late in the coaching carousel cycle, so that'll be interesting. So Will Hall's been named Tulane head coach. That will be the heir apparent to John Summerall, who's now in Florida. Michigan coaching search is getting really interesting. Michigan is getting a lot of bad publicity right now. I'm not going to lie to you. It looked like Kenny Dillingham may be the guy that they were interested in hiring, and Kenny Dillingham just got an extension this morning from the Sun Devils, so he'll be there for a while. We know he went to school there. He really loves that place. People who are coaching at universities they played for or they went to, there's a different type of loyalty there. It really is. Like, when Colin Klein got the opportunity to come be the head coach at Kansas State, he ran at it because he played there, right? To be back in the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas, I'm sure he loved the opportunity. But some of the coaches that Michigan are looking at, and I'm not sure how much interest is there with all the messiness that's going on at Michigan right now. They're looking at Louisville's Jeff Brom. Jeff Brom is acquired, for anybody who don't know. He really is outstanding coach. One of my favorite coaches in all of college football. It's that disciplinarian piece for me. He's a disciplinarian at heart and just an outstanding coach. And the accountability that he's going to have with his players is going to be amazing. And I think he runs a clean program. So I think that's why Michigan is probably interested in him. Eli Drinkowitz, at this point, this might sound crazier. This might sound really crazy. Just want to put this out there. Fuck Ohio State. Hey, CANES. Hey, you called it, bro. I shouted you out earlier. You called it. My apologies. You was right. You know what I'm saying? You said exactly the way that the game went. You said it was going to win. My apologies, brother. Got to put that out there. But Eli Drinkowitz, I asked myself this question, and I know when you think about Michigan, you think about the illustrious players, coaches that played for that program. But with the program under such scrutiny over the last half a decade, like, are the resources and the issues you got to deal with in Ann Arbor better than the resources and the issues you have to deal with in Columbia? And I'm thinking about Eli Drinkowitz when I said that. Yes, I love Jeff Brown, bro. And then Washington Jetfish, I think he's an outstanding coach. Another attention to detail guy. One of the few coaches that wants to be an integral part of the offense, defense, and special teams. He sits in all of the meetings. So I don't know if he leaves us all exactly. That's a great point right there. So episode 2 in the books. You guys see us repurposing. Like I said, we live every Sunday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They had to start a little bit later tonight because I was on Herb FM, talking to them about, and sorry about the freeze frames. I don't know why it's doing that. But we'll also be live Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. Governor of College Football. That show is on at the Governor of College Football. If you just put in your YouTube at Governor of College Football, I also do 3 shows a week there. They're 3-hour shows a week. So I'm going to be live a lot. I got you guys for the off season. I don't really do the off season. You all take care. What I meant by that, there's no such thing as the off season. We're here. We got you covered. I'm doing 6 shows a week at least. So you all take care.